Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Holy Plot. This is Liam, Jacob, and James. We are here once again talking about the new episode of My Adventures with Superman. I believe this is episode 6. Before we get started, I just want to remind you we are a small channel that is growing. If you like what we do, like, subscribe, comment, do all that nice stuff. We read every comment. We
Reply to
pop
them.
off at every subscriber. If you want to get involved with this growing community, do so. It's free. Why not? Anyway, I think we should address some of the discourse that's been happening around this series, specifically with Lois Lane's character. People started off really on board with her design and character and basically everything, but since last episode, there has been a lot of debate and disagreement and people not really jiving with their character, a lot of comparisons to Amber from Invincible, which, if you know anything about that, is not what you want your superhero love interest being compared to. So before we get into the episode proper, and I guess it can kind of ease us into the episode as well, fellas, what do we think about Lois Lane in this show?
One, I think Amber from Invincible is fine. So I think I might not have as much of a... It might not irk me as much as most people. I think where she's coming from is completely understandable, and when a character is written with flaws, I don't think that's the writers of the show saying that she's valid. She's clearly written here to be, making mistakes and not understanding the situation, and she's being a little immature. I think not figuring out Clark as Superman kind of hurt her pride a little bit. So to that level, I understand why people are upset, but I do think there are some more reasoning behind her characterization that should be acknowledged, which is... One, this episode takes place right after the events of episode 5, so they're right off of that moment. They have no room to breathe, and you see in this episode that, she comes around. It takes a little bit, and two is that she is under the false impression that what Clark's secret with Superman is kind of the tip of the iceberg. So I think that paranoia, and once again, is not justified. It's clearly she's making mistakes. That paranoia is driving more of her frustration than anything.
I think the elephant in the room is that it's not a coincidence that in these past 2 episodes, these trust issues are being mentioned in the same conversations about her dad. It's very clear that she has been raised by her dad in a way that has given her trust issues and paranoia. For all we know, a little bit of trauma, because this version of her dad seems pretty intense. So there's a lot of projection there. I think in the last episode, it's fair to have a knee-jerk, strong reaction to somebody that you're falling in love with, finding out that they're keeping a huge secret from you. Now, how she handles it in this episode, I think there's some room for criticism, but not enough to blow up the show on Twitter.
It certainly doesn't ruin her character.
No.
I also think people had a big issue about the whole jumping off the building thing, and I'm not trying to be annoying, but that's not the first time that's happened. So
didn't it happen in the Reeves movie?
It's been a minute. It happens, and it happens in lowest iterations. So I understand the frustration, and it did. I think the big issue with it is definitely the pacing, because it kind of came out of nowhere a little bit.
It was very sudden shift.
But it did not bother me. So let's get on to the other stuff that happened in this episode.
Yeah. So I think a good place to start is with Jimmy, because this is a really Jimmy-centric episode. What are we feeling about his arc?
Well, thank God he actually has one, because Jimmy Olsen is the most criminally underserved character in Superman media.
Maybe ever.
And I'm really enjoying it. I mean, the characterization's really good. There's a really good moment with him, which we won't spoil later in the episode. And I think it's just really enjoyable, and it is bringing the characters closer together, which I like.
I'm glad they're kind of self-aware that he could seem like the odd one out of the trio, just obviously. Mm-hmm. I've enjoyed that they've just immediately played with that. Really, that's a big strength, I think, for the whole show. It is immediately getting to the stuff that you want to. It's getting to people finding out that he's Superman, to these characters falling in love. It's just getting straight to stuff.
Yeah, so, and I think Jimmy's character really fits well with the absurd premise of this episode.
Let's get into it.
So Liam, take us away with that.
I think before we do that, because it's impossible to talk about that without getting into spoilers a little bit. So I think this is going to be your spoiler warning. I'm going to give away spoilers for Holy Plot. I'm going to give away my rating for this episode right now. It is sitting at a 7 for me.
Yeah, I'm in the
which-
same boat.
I'm 8.
Huh. Well, I really liked the last 2 episodes. This one, I don't know, man. Something about it. It just seemed, I don't know. It felt almost like a little step back for me. Not anything crazy. Like, it wasn't a bad episode. A 7 is still a fine score. But there was just
Did
stuff
something
that
feel
was,
odd to you, Liam? Did something feel disorienting about it?
Well, there was one thing. Full spoilers. There is a full human dude in this episode. A full human dude who was in a committed relationship with just a straight up gorilla. And then he gets turned into like a brain robot. So I thought that, like, they're like, okay, this brain robot and this gorilla are in love. That's cute. But then there's like a flashback. And they were like in love when it was like human on gorilla action. That to me was pretty crazy. That's not enough to like bring down the episode at all.
I mean, I think it's kind of cute. Whatever.
It's really it's
really
wacky.
funny.
It's
super wacky. Yeah.
It's crazy because this is the villains, not really the villains, the characters of the week. We got the Brain, and we have, called it by the way, Monsieur Mallah, one of the many DC gorilla characters. You know what? It's definitely weird because they flash back to him being human, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's like,
no.
Dude, this guy's making out with just a
Like,
gorilla?
This
We're
guy
doing this?
really likes the movie Zootopia, you know?
That's
Like,
crazy.
Look, the
This-
gorilla's super intelligent though.
Dude, it's a
Oh, no.
gorilla.
no,
It's
no,
a-
no.
No, that's such a slippery slope.
It is.
It is.
Look. It's wacky. It's fun. It's whatever. I want the show to lean into the wackiness a little.
That's why I actually give it an
That's
8.
wacky.
Because this episode is wacky, it's weird, and I really appreciate getting into the just kind of batshit comic book stuff that even the movies don't quite get to. I think they're actually doing a really good job of building the Freak of the Week stuff into the serial side. You know, like, I thought it was cool, just, you know, we're in spoiler section. Ivo is back at the end with Sam Lane, and they're keeping these villains connected. Oh, we got a Cadmus name drop in this one. Final point for me is, you know, if I'm going to complain about the kind of homogenous tech villain thing, which was a nitpick, I appreciated that, you know, this episode did break from that. It was weird. It had its own feel and tone.
I think the tech villain trend is gonna die, especially with the next episode.
I think so. And
I
now,
hope so.
last note for spoilers, I really appreciated that Jimmy knew that Clark was Superman, because this Clark,
Yeah.
which is really funny, is bad at hiding his identity.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
cute.
and like I saw people tearing apart like, this is how you do a reveal. The reveal was self-aware, and Lois was in that scene to be like kind of called out on her, you know, misunderstanding of the situation. So I don't. Once again, I think I'm just more opinionated than most people, but I think the show is more self-aware than people are giving it credit for.
I enjoyed it. 8 out of 10 episode. I'm just looking forward to how this season wraps.
7 out of 10 episode. Don't bang gorillas. It's bad for your health. It was fun. I hope the next episode is a bit better.
I'm somewhere in the middle, but I probably will give it a 7. Really solid. I enjoyed that it slowed down, and yeah, it was pretty good.
All right.
All right.
Well, unless we have anything else, this has been Holy Plot. Please tune in next time when we cover whatever we're covering next. Thank you, baby. Stay pretty.